Good afternoon, everyone. We know that the president will be speaking about 3 o'clock, so we'll do this as quickly as we can today so you all can watch that. I do have a few things at the top. First, on Pakistan. The United States condemns in the strongest terms the attack on Saturday on a Sufi shrine in Baluchistan that killed 52 innocent worshippers and wounded over 100 more. We extend our condolences to the victims and their families. Attacks like this only deepen our shared resolve to defeat terrorism and end the targeting of religious minorities. We stand with the people of Pakistan at this difficult hour and remain committed to supporting religious freedom. We'll continue to work with our partners in Pakistan and across the region to combat the threat of terrorism. In Afghanistan, we also strongly condemn the suicide attack on coalition personnel at Bagram Airfield this weekend that killed two U.S. service members and 2 U.S. contractors and injured 16 other U.S. service members and 1 Polish soldier participating in the NATO mission. Our deepest sympathies go to the family and friends affected by this tragic loss. So we mourn their sacrifice. We reaffirm our commitment to protect the homeland and help our Afghan partners secure their country and their future. On Ghana, the United States is deeply disappointed by the targeting of the home and family of the primary opposition presidential candidate. We condemn all violence in Ghana, including political violence in the period leading to, during, and immediately following Ghana's elections scheduled for December 7th. Ghanaians from across the political spectrum have worked hard to build one of the leading democracies in Africa. We call on all Ghanaians to remain peaceful and respect the democratic process. We specifically call on candidates, their parties, and their supporters to reaffirm their pledges to renounce violence and settle any disputes through the judicial process. And finally, I believe you all saw the readout of Secretary Kerry's meetings today in Oman, where he met in Muscat with His Majesty Sultan Qaboos bin Saeed Al Saeed in Muscat. Secretary Kerry and the Sultan reaffirmed the enduring partnership between the United States and the Sultanate of Oman. Secretary expressed the United States' deep appreciation for the helpful role that Oman has played in securing the recent release of U.S. citizens held in Yemen. He also discussed with the Sultan the conflict in Yemen, the urgent need to find a durable political settlement to ease the suffering of the Yemeni people. I think also, as you know, the Secretary met with his counterpart, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs, Yusuf bin Alawi bin Abdullah, where they discussed a range of regional issues of mutual concern, including the conflict in Yemen. Secretary travels to Abu Dhabi tomorrow to meet with the Crown Prince, and we'll have more on that tomorrow. And with that, Matt?
Right. Thanks. Let's start with any transition news that you might have. Has there been any contact yet? Do you have any idea when the President-elect's team will be showing up?
So we have no updates from this weekend. As we said on Friday, the department stands ready to help the transition team and support them as we move to Inauguration Day, but I have no updates.
But does that mean that no, there hasn't been any contact?
Correct.
Okay. Does anyone have anything on that? Or?
Well, just to clarify, so nobody from the President-elect's office nor from the State Department has reached out?
Correct.
So what would normally happen with the State Department?
I think this is standard. I think at this stage we'll wait for the transition team. Certainly we're poised to help. We're poised to support with a range of administrative, logistical, briefing, information materials. We would welcome that. And as soon as I do have an update, I'll make sure you guys get it.
Just to understand clearly, how is the Secretary's activities? How do you brief the President-elect on what he's doing, what is U.S. foreign policy from the State Department's perspective, not from the White House?
Well, I think we would back it up and we would take a look at the range of foreign policy issues. We've spoken about this in previous transitions from the podium. There's briefing books, there's oral materials coming in. So it's something that the State Department is adaptable, looking at what the transition team would need, and we look forward to working with them.
Elizabeth, on Syria, Secretary Kerry has called Minister Lavrov today. Do you have any readout for this phone call?
So I don't have much of a readout. I can confirm that the Secretary did speak to Foreign Minister Lavrov this morning, spoke about the situation in Aleppo. They also reemphasized the need for a political solution to the conflict in Syria. But beyond that, I have no details to offer.
But it looks like the Syrian regime and the Russians are planning to invade eastern Aleppo soon. Did they discuss this? Has the Secretary asked the Russians to postpone this military operation?
So I know they discussed the situation in Aleppo in terms of what the regime or their Russian backers are planning on doing. I'd refer you to them to speak to their plans. But the Secretary did reemphasize again that there's no military solution to the conflict in Syria.
And are you concerned about such an operation?
Well, as we've said all along, we're deeply concerned about this situation in Aleppo. We're deeply concerned about the civilian toll that we're seeing there. What we have said all along is that aid needs to go in, that there needs to be a period where we can get back to the political negotiations. The Secretary, in his conversation with Foreign Minister Lavrov, did emphasize the dire situation in Aleppo.
Since the September 9th agreement collapsed, not too many days after it was actually announced, you guys have spoken about, and then the bilateral contact, or at least in terms of a ceasefire, was broken. You guys have talked about how the teams are still meeting in Geneva.
Which they are, including today.
So exactly what have they done over the course of the last month and a half since the bilateral U.S.-Russia thing broke down?
I'm not going to detail the conversations that we're having in Geneva. What I would say, and I confirmed this morning, is we continue to have conversations there in a multilateral setting, taking a look at the emphasis that we've placed on aid, that we've placed on reestablishing a cessation of hostilities and the political transition. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, can you point to any kind of success that these talks that you continue to have made? I mean,
I can't point to success, but I can point to the fact that we continue to think that they're valuable enough that we remain at the table.
But they produce nothing then. Right?
At this stage, we continue to engage. I don't have a result to point to, Matt.
Right.
No.
I know. And that's the issue here, because you guys have said, and actually everyone has said all the time, or everyone does say all the time, that there's no point in having talks for talk's sake. And frankly, if they've been meeting for a month and a half, and you can't point to a single thing that they've accomplished, I just wonder what is the point of continuing this? It seems just like it's a charade and an excuse for people to, get a lot of expensive room service meals in luxury hotels in Switzerland.
I think where we are very focused on is the fact that we go back to our fundamental principles, where we've focused on in the conflict in Syria, is that there is no military solution. The only solution on this is going to be through a multilateral setting. We are having these talks because we think it's important to have these talks, and we wouldn't continue to engage in these talks if we didn't think it was valuable. Again, I'm not in a position where I can unpack the specific strands of our work, where we've seen progress, where we don't see progress. But what I will say is that we're there, we're at the table, we're in Geneva, we continue to push.
But can you give one reason why you think that they're valuable?
I think they're valuable because what's our other solution? Our other solution is a military solution, and the international community understands there is no military solution for the conflict in Syria. So what we do is we continue to engage every day, pushing for a political one.
Well, that's a very odd way to ascribe value to something. Because if they don't produce anything, they're not productive.
We
right?
continue to believe it's valuable.
All right, are we done on Syria?
Hold on a few on Syria, and then we'll move on. We'll go to Saeed then Michelle.
I just want to, according to the Russian Foreign Ministry's readout of the meeting, they're saying that Minister Lavrov raised the fact that you refuse to separate the terrorists from the other groups and so on, and that is basically causing the problems in eastern Aleppo.
So I couldn't speak to the veracity of the Russian Foreign Ministry's readout on that. What I would say is what we've said all along is we do understand this is a problem. We've talked about the marbleization on that. We've talked about our efforts to pull those groups apart that continue.
So what are you doing in terms of basically pulling them apart from one another, to use your words?
This is something that we've spoken about for weeks and weeks, Saeed. We continue to have conversations with the groups on the ground. We've also said how difficult it will be when these groups are under constant bombardment, and this is a situation where it's very difficult for them to pull apart. When they're under threat, they're under attack. We believe it's important. Our view on Nusra and certainly Daesh have not changed.
So now, apparently there is a decision to target Al-Qaeda affiliated groups and so on in eastern Aleppo. That would really include many of the groups under that umbrella, correct? I mean, including some of the groups that you may have supported in the past.
Well, we've spoken about who's included in the cessation of hostilities, the one that was put in place earlier this year. Nusra, Daesh have always been excluded under that.
Yes, Elizabeth, you were saying that there is no military solution, but Russia and the Syrian regime are talking about a military solution in eastern Aleppo, and it looks like the military offensive on eastern Aleppo is imminent.
We continue to believe that attacks like this just push the country further into chaos. They continue to push the country farther from the goal of a nonviolent solution. Leslie?
Also still on Syria, do you, following up what Matt was saying, do you really believe that there can be
that will alleviate the suffering of the Syrian people and to create that space for a political dialogue? We work at this every single day.
Can I ask, has the President-elect's transition team in any way, I know he's getting daily security briefings, but have they in any way joined or been briefed on this situation?
I would refer you to the President-elect's transition team on that, Leslie.
Can I stay in the region, but
Sure.
move south a little bit to Bahrain?
Of course. WAD, Political Society, has been questioned and charged over comments he actually made in an AP article. We're following the case closely. As we've said before, we believe that no one anywhere should be prosecuted or imprisoned for engaging in freedom of expression, even when that expression is critical. Any charges against Sharif on that basis should be dropped.